The black rhino is native to Africa, mainly the southern and eastern parts of the country, such as South Africa and Mozambique. At this stage, the black rhino is considered critically endangered, with some subspecies already declared extinct. Black rhino are generally found within the confines of protected regions these days, such as the Kruger National Park, as well as on privately held reserves. Unfortunately, poaching is still a massive issue even within these protected regions. Black rhino are solitary animals, so they will generally be by themselves, unless of course there's a cow with a calf, or you'll see sometimes groups of males roaming around looking for ladies. Black rhino are considered browsers, so rather than grazing they will sort of picket things a little bit higher up the ground, generally doing most of their foraging during the night when it's a little bit cooler. Unfortunately, if you're a black rhino, your prospects haven't improved much recently. Stuff like habitat loss and poaching is driving numbers down dramatically throughout Africa and even in other parts of the world. Since 2007, the incidence of the poaching skyrocketed. There was 13 reported cases of poaching across the rhino community in 2007, with 1,215 incidences reported in 2014. This demand is being driven by mainly the Asian market and the fact that at this stage the trade of rhino horn is illegal in Africa and throughout the world, which is causing these poaching incidences to be committed in such high numbers. Intriguingly, and perhaps quite hypocritically, the majority of middle-class white people are opposed to the use of rhino horn and to rhino poaching. Despite this, we are still happy to use other animals in a similar fashion, such as cattle, sheep and pigs. Perhaps the main variation in the cultural perceptions that we have towards rhino is that at this stage rhino are being poached illegally, whereas our uses of livestock is legal. While Australians commonly view rhinos as a tourist attraction, a beautiful animal to view in the wild while on safari or visiting zoos, the reality for most African locals is quite different. With the kind of money that poaching a rhino can produce for a family, many local Africans view rhinos as an income source, as an opportunity to earn some real money. Rhinos and humans interact together in a number of ways, some positive, some negative. Due to dwindling numbers of the black rhino population, human-rhino interactions are no longer unplanned commonly. So there isn't a great deal of rhinos sort of damaging crops, farmland, because their numbers have been so heavily affected by poaching. They are in generally isolated pockets of Africa, generally South Africa, found mainly on reserves that are patrolled by rangers, such as the Kruger National Park, or within private game organisations, where they are generally dehorned to ensure their safety. At this stage, the most common interaction with rhino is unfortunately the rhino-poacher interaction, with at least 5 to 6 black and white rhino killed every day in Africa for their horns. It's not all doom and gloom though. There are a lot of programs currently being run in order to preserve the survival of the black rhino. Recently, I myself was working in South Africa alongside a group of individuals that are currently working to ensure that they can smuggle some rhino out of the country. So they're being loaded onto helicopters and sent off to breeding programs throughout the world to make sure that we don't lose this species entirely. There's also a pilot program running at the moment where black and white rhino are being sent to Texas in a breeding program, just to make sure that we do have breeding stock when unfortunately they are completely poached out in Africa, which at this stage is looking like a very real reality. So what does the future hold for the black rhino? At this stage it's not looking too crash hot, with extinction looming and looking like a very real possibility unless we do visit some other avenues to save the species. While a number of welfare groups are pushing to have poaching completely wiped out, realistically, this doesn't seem like an option that is going to work. While we have been pushing for an eradication of poaching for years, the numbers continue to climb. The lure of the money is just too much for these poor African poachers, of which receive only a very small portion of the actual finances. Maybe in order to save our rhino friends, we need to look outside the box. Many reputable professors, rangers and veterinarians have actually recommended the regulation of the rhino horn trade in Africa, basically eliminating the black market and putting the poachers out of business. A regulation of the trade would ensure proper veterinary supervision and regulation of the trade, ensuring that all rhinos were receiving adequate veterinary care. And there is a plethora of research that suggests that farming rhino horn actually has no negative effect on the rhino and can be carried out multiple times on the same animal without using any kind of lethal force.